so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life, well, that's another, which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the reflection and extension of you who will be here each Wednesday interviewing a different consciousness changemaker. And on the other 4 weekdays, leading the way to ensure that your perspective is consistently expanded, your vibration is constantly elevated, and your heart is overflowing and full. Also, this episode of the Positive Head Podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online, and you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. All right, all you positive heads, welcome back to another episode. It is a terrific Tuesday here in the studio as I record, and I have my good friend Christopher Jackson here with me to help steer the ship as we've been doing for the last several months on Tuesdays. And Chris, thanks for showing up to co-pilot, my friend.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, always a pleasure. And, you know, you'd sent me a question. This is a great example. I mean, you guys, of course, I love getting your questions, which you can send to Brandon@positivehead.com. Also, if you're on the Facebook group, Positive Heads, you can ask questions there, and sometimes I'll respond from there or add them to the queue. But, Chris's and I's daily dialogue, I mean, we'll send questions back and forth that we're pondering. And I was like, you sent such a great one yesterday afternoon or evening. I was like, let's talk about this, because normally I have such an immediate answer to, or thought. I mean, it doesn't mean it's right, but I always have an immediate opinion. And with this question that you send over, it caused me to take pause and really ponder for a few minutes. And I was like, that's how I knew it was a good question, because I didn't have something instantly to respond with. So we're going to talk a little bit about the question you were pondering yesterday, and I've been pondering since. Before we dive into that, though, I would like to throw out to you guys a couple things, events that are coming up. As those of you who've been listening for a while know, Chris runs Grateful Generation, which produces amazing, transformational events. And you have another event coming up with Alex Gray soon, right?
Yeah, in Spangle, we have an Abundance Bicycle Day 75th anniversary tour with Spangle, Alex and Allison Gray, Desert Dwellers, and Tene, Charles I, Saki.
Wow, that's an incredible lineup, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Excited for it. It's at the Mayan Theater downtown too, which is just like this
in Los Angeles. For those of you who aren't from LA,
beautiful theater with like all of these like from the late 20s, I think, where it's all these amazing like hand carved Mayan glyphs throughout the entire place. It's like, wow.
It's right next door to the Belasco where the last event was at, right?
Yeah. Both probably two of my favorite venues in all of Los Angeles.
The Mayan Magical. Is pretty epic. Definitely, and that is a super epic lineup. And for those of you who don't know, look up Alex Gray. I mean, I'm sure most of you listening, he's sort of like the godfather of visionary art, I guess you would say. And I think back to my old band Kundalini back in like around 2000, we would actually project Alex Gray art behind us on screen, and people were like, "What?
Awesome.
What is that?" And so now what's so interesting is, visionary art. There's so many incredible visionary artists, and he's sort of like he's like the founding father, I guess you would say.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, and we've got so we have a special discount for all you positive heads out there. It's basically positive head in all caps. Will save you, I think, $10 off your ticket.
Oh, cool. And where can they go to get the ticket?
They can go to theticketferry.com. That's theticketferry.com.
Okay. And then search for Abundance.
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. Cool. And then you also have something now. You and I are both going to be out at Lucidity Festival in Santa Barbara this weekend, which is, if you guys that have been listening for a long time, you'll remember Jonah Haas was on one of my first powwows or interview powwow episodes way back. Jonah, who's one of the founders, co-founders of Lucidity. And then we actually shared workshops for several months leading up to the event. We've also got, I wasn't really thinking I was going to make it this year, and now I am, and I'd hope to see some of your beautiful, shiny faces there. And Chris, we have a code for that as well?
Yeah, actually, we have one for Lucidity. It's Grateful. Just type in Grateful as your discount code. Yeah.
Cool.
And I think it saves like $25 off the ticket.
Oh, wow. That's really good. Awesome. Well, so yeah, hope to see you guys at some of these events. I will be at both of them, and Chris as well. And Chris, let's dive in, shall we, into your pondering from yesterday. And I'm going to go ahead and read it. I'll go ahead and read it off. What Chris sent me, and like I said, actually caused me to pause, which is rare. Chris said, wondering if it is truly as it seems that all of pain is love repressed, unaddressed, unreflected, or unmet to be seen, heard, and felt as who and what we are. And you can see why that caused me to say, hold on, let me really digest this question. Chris, you've been sitting with this for at least 12 hours since you sent it to me. Where have you arrived with your question?
Well, it's funny, one of my whole superpowers, I feel, on this plane is to decode and deconstruct complex systems. I've always said, and then distill them back into elegant simplicity for people.
Yeah.
And to me, this was the pondering of it is just the ultimate elegant simplicity of just remembering who and what we are.
Yeah.
As love and as oneness, and when we're operating from that place, which we've been talking about thus far in some of our past podcasts.
You're our past episodes.
Yeah. Is really abundance technology, the primordial architecture of all of the universe. Being aligned with that is basically being aligned with ourselves as love, as oneness. And from that place, when we're holding it in our minds, there's no suffering. Suffering comes from the wound of our perceptions, deceptions of separation. And it's really I feel our neocortex of our brains that creates stories around the context of our material consciousness, which is really there to keep our bodies intact, right? So we can continue to live in the gift of the present. That all basically comes from this context of, in the material lens, we see ourselves as separate from everything.
Right.
But in truth, we receive that at a very early age as we form our identities around that, as though that's being separate is this curse. Because from the material perspective, being separate is a threat to our survival. The one thing we all have to have in order to survive, especially from an infant perspective, is connection. And then when our identities form around this idea that we are, we see ourselves materially as separate, then it essentially has us seeing ourselves as a threat to our own survival and that there's something wrong with us. And and then we create, the neocortex creates a story around that there is something wrong with us. And so it's like, this is, in a way, I call this like the original sin, and it's a whole new way of looking at the whole Eden story through the different layers of our brain and our own consciousness, and seeing that separation is actually not a curse, but it's a blessing. Because without separation, there's no experience. If you're perfect oneness in a material sense and an etheric sense, then there's nothing to experience.
Right. Exactly.
So it's like this thing that separation, in a material sense, is what gives us the gift of getting to experience and remember ourselves as love, as oneness, as everything, and get to continue to marvel in the emergent or effulgent wonderfulness that's constantly overflowing around us everywhere. It's just like, wow. And then like seeing how simple this is, like that all pain that we experience is just love. It's either physical pain is the love of our body, letting us know that something's going on to pay attention to.
Right.
And then emotional pain is like this thing that we experience because we're feeling, either we're repressing our expression of our love, or we're feeling unaddressed or unrecognized,
unheard,
as the love that we are, or that we're giving. And then it creates this space as we're emerging, through our childhoods into becoming adulterated, which literally means to become impure.
Mm-hmm.
And as we
become
adults,
that's an interesting encoding.
We become impure, with taking on all of these ideas that tell us that we're not love and that we're lacking and that we have to find love and we have to find connection. When you really return back to the center point of remembering who and what you are is love. And love lacks nothing, and love needs nothing.
Right.
You return to becoming a fountain, not in undertow, sucking as much value out of life as you can to fill this void, this deception of lack in ourselves. But instead, you become now a fountain, no longer an undertow, but an overflow. And as that happens, you begin to actually experience abundance all around you as you constantly lift others up. And like as we talked about on the last show, we become the wind beneath each other's wings as we all rise together in this constant like effulgence of light, love, and life that we are.
Yeah, I think you touched on... Yeah, exactly. Wow. Wow. So, you touched on something that I feel is really important, and that is, if it was all one, there would be nothing. And so this pain is actually love in disguise telling you something about yourself, whether it's physical pain or emotional pain. Yeah. And so, really the way I view it is like energy is neutral. Everything is neutral inherently. What direction we take it determines whether it becomes pain or, it's like hot or cold or, all of these things, up, down, pain, bliss. They're all sort of just mirror reflections, and we live in the realm of duality. That is the point of the 3D experience. Is there other experiences where it's all one and it's all different type of journey because there's not duality, there's not male and female and hot and cold and pain and bliss and all these varying contextual experiences that we can have. And once you realize that is the journey that you signed up for when you come here, right? You come here so that you can have these varying degrees of experience. Now, instead of resisting when pain is arising, you're, as I've heard Abraham, and we're going to play a clip here in a few minutes, talk about embracing pain is the path of least resistance. When you understand, it's telling you something, it's feedback in some way, how you are perhaps out of alignment with the way your higher self is seeing things or experiencing things. And so it's an indicator. It's those speed bumps, on the side of the road that when you're drifting off course and you all of a sudden hit those bumps to wake you up if you've fallen asleep at the wheel. It's the same kind of thing, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because it all like ties back in again to being, again, this context, if you're being love, you're being oneness, you actually express everything. You don't project it, but you express it, in the context of sharing. Because if I'm one with you, then I can just sit here and share everything that's going on with me. And the funny thing is when you share things and they're received, there's this trippy thing that happens where the actual physical charge that we usually experience around it disappears. It's bizarre, but it's still wrapping my head around it. It's kind of like, I imagine, if I share with you what I'm experiencing, like, I'm having this physical sensation in my stomach, and then you reflect that back to me. I'm hearing that you're having this physical twisted sensation in your stomach or whatever. Then I've noticed this amazing thing happen where that sensation disappears from my body.
Yeah. Interesting.
And so it's like becoming clear, because what you see is like being love and being oneness is that you hold on to nothing. And in holding on to nothing, you have everything.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, the secrets that the ascended masters have been sharing for thousands of years, in the Tao Te Ching, becoming the immovable spot, right? In Jesus talking about unconditional love, in Buddha talking about, the child's mind, which also holds on to nothing, and
right.
Nothingness. And in that nothingness in your mind, then you get to have everything, and that,
right.
That child's mind puts you in a state of constant grace of receiving the emerging and effulgent wonderfulness that's constantly in front of us. Without the adulteration, in the lens, we're actually able to see everything in the pureness in which it's given without interpretation.
Right.
And, and then what I would say is, to go into the divine child is actually to learn to hold our lens in the highest love and possibility, and basically everything that we see and perceive transforms in our presence. And I think this is what was also spoken of in ancient times, where it's like Jesus is able to transform the lepers because he sees them whole, and his
right.
vision of them so pure and so integral to the ultimate primordial truth has them transformed in his field.
Right. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just, what was coming up was there's another word that I got from a great friend, Merrill, who, it's this term that comes up when we become a clearing. We literally, like, as we're sharing everything, we give other people permission to share all of their density and all of their stuff that they're holding on to.
Right.
We literally become permissionary.
Right. Yeah, you use that term last. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that
so
term.
Good.
That's so good. So good. Well, let's take a listen here this is a relatively short, 4-minute or so clip where Abraham Esther Hicks talks about this very subject, and I think there's some interesting perspective that's shared. I found this on the Abraham Hicks Unlimited YouTube page, and it's called Physical and Emotional Pain Reflect Your Connection to the Vortex. Take a listen.
My question's around pain, both physical and emotional, that we all experience, and lately I seem to find the fun and the joy regularly, and that's kind of how I look at getting into the vortex. And then there's times where there will be just a significant pain that appears to me, and I find it disconcerting, confusing, and it's oftentimes I think of it, is it or not it? Am I in alignment? Am I in the vortex or not? And when I feel that pain, I just feel like I've just been yanked out of the vortex and slapped on the ground.
Well, the most significant thing to acknowledge at the outset of this conversation is that the pain that you feel is proportionate to the vortex work that you do. So the more you have tasted the sublime alignment, the more you will suffer when you deny it. When you disallow it. When you are holding yourself in a vibrational stance that does not allow it. In other words, the sweeter your connection is, the more miserable your disconnection is. It's just that way. So if you stop and acknowledge that you couldn't feel that pain if there were not something really wonderful available to you, and that they are different ends of the same vibrational stick, it really is helpful to understand it. We've been saying to all of you, and Esther has been hearing it in a more powerful way recently, that when you find a really painful thought, it means for sure your inner being is thinking something very different from that.
Yes.
Very different from that. So then you say, well, I think I'd like to join my inner being, not because my inner being is necessarily so smart, but it is, but because I don't want to feel like this. So it's sort of a backhanded way of going about it. In other words, I don't want to feel like this. Well, when you really know how you don't want to feel, isn't it evident of how you do want to feel? Isn't it just opposite ends of the spectrum? So when somebody says to us, I'm experiencing true pain, emotional pain or physical pain, but it's truly painful, we say, this is really good news, because it means these things. It means you have expanded enormously, and right now you're not taking the expansion, but you've expanded enormously, and right now you're not taking the expansion, but you've expanded enormously, and right now you're not taking the expansion, but you've expanded enormously, right now you're not taking the expansion. Your inner being is over there with the expansion, right now you're not taking it, but you've expanded enormously. But, and here's the second really, really good part. I have guidance that I'm consciously utilizing that helps me to acknowledge that I've expanded enormously, but I'm not taking it. So now I know what to do. I'm going to go generally negative. Because I'm probably, if I'm in that much pain, I've been pretty specifically negative on some topic. That's why I'm hurting so bad. Because in my specific negative, I've really created some specific positive, and I've got a world of hurt going on with this tug of war between me. So I got to do something. Esther says, Abraham, I'm over here, and it's really painful to not be together. Come over here, Abraham. Come over here so that we're not stretched so far apart. And we say, egotistical ones that we are. Yes. You got to come over here. You got to come over here, which means you've got to let go of your grip of the specifics and get more general. So as you get more general, less grip. Here you come. As you stay there, more positive. Here you come. And before you know it, boom, you're there. Out of pain and into bliss, which is where you belong. Good time for a segment of refreshment.
So yeah, Chris, I mean, definitely some really great points there. I mean, one is, I love how she points out, if you're feeling pain and you're feeling deep pain, instead of viewing that, it's all about the story we're telling, right? Instead of viewing that as, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. And, if you can bring the awareness that, okay, the pain that I'm feeling is proportionate to the vortex work you've done, is what she says. So basically, the more you'll
That's
suffer.
That's where I got a little lost in it, honestly. But
okay,
maybe you've listened a lot more to her and understand what she means when she says that?
So what she's saying is the more, basically it's kind of like an empath or someone who feels deeply, you know, they say that's your greatest gift and your greatest curse both. The more you know of the heights of bliss and connection to the vortex, the more you'll suffer when you disallow that connection, is what she's saying. So basically you've done the work. You've really connected with higher self, and it's kind of like the people, Chris, that go and have near-death experiences and feel what it's like to be in that state beyond the veil, and then they come back and they're depressed for 2 years and can barely get off the couch because they just want to go back. They've experienced something so much more blissful than a 3D reality, right? So that's basically what her point was there.
Well, you know what this brings up for me also that's interesting is that the dark, what I've often shared with people is that my own realization is that the deeper the dark I've experienced in my life, the greater the capacity I have to hold more light. Exactly. And so what I'm getting from what she's saying is that the inverse also is when you attain more light, you're actually going to experience the equal and opposing, dark.
Or when you do, you've got what's great though is she's saying we're sort of the candle of hope in this is like when you start to bring the awareness of hold on here, I couldn't feel this pain if there wasn't this other end of the spectrum, right? Different end of the vibrational stick, as she talks about. And this is really an indicator that there's really something wonderful to me. And you know, now you realize, okay, so I've kind of run off course here in this pain, this deep pain point, but I'm aware of what that's telling me. There's this whole other end that I need to find myself back to vibrationally. And her way of doing that is, she talks about, slowly going general, not going from I'm, so negative and deep in pain, and all of a sudden I'm this happy, bubbly, beacon of hope and love and light, right? To make that as a huge jump. But if you can start generally going negative, taking away some of the story, taking away some of the attention, taking away some of the pieces, you'll find that you sort of naturally start flowing. You get momentum back in the direction you want to go towards, your vortex, as she puts it. Right.
This was something I wrote to someone else just recently that really helped. When in feeling like this deep pain, that I'd felt a lot of my life, and really like seeing all these beautiful people that are so full of love, wanting connection, and doing everything to create separation in the process, right? You've got all these people crying for attention, and then you've got all these other people that are focused on making their dreams come true, thinking that that's going to get them connection. And all the while, it's like the connection is right there to be had.
Right.
And I'm just like, what is wrong with all these people? Like, how did I land on this planet of hell? Like, what the hell am I doing here? And then I realized, like, so this pain that I've often felt, personally, is like I'll find myself inside of the wounds of the world. And that it's not just mine that I'm, it's the whole. And where it used to be really challenging and difficult, it now actually becomes much easier when I see that all of these curses that I've had to bear actually become my greatest blessings when I remember to share. Right? And as I share them with others, so many find themselves inside of these truths. And then in connecting with it, the true definition of healing is actually to reconnect. The wound actually speaks of the word wound speaks of separation, and that healing is actually bringing things together again. Right. So we're bringing ourselves together again, with ourselves and with the external parts of ourselves, which are everybody else.
Right.
So then this reflection came for a friend of mine that I sent, which was basically all of your curses that you've had to bear are the lead that you turn to gold as you see through the eyes of love, and they become your greatest blessings you get to share as the love and oneness that you are. And this is where our perceptions, deceptions of separation that had caused the suffering is healed when we stop using force in a desire to control and surrender to what we feel and have faith and trust in knowing our power as love and oneness to be the clearing and the space that we share for magic and miracles to appear when people find themselves wrapped up in our joy, excitement, and enthusiasm for all that we now is happening through the power of our oneness and our commitment to a planet of paradise for us all.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. That is a wonderful, wonderful piece to wrap up this episode. Chris, this has been quite the epic exploration, as I know to expect whenever you come on and bring your passion and energy. So thank you, my friend, for doing what you do and being who you are. I am honored to share this experience with you.
Thank you.
You have a song that you're gonna DJ for us today. What do you got queued up?
Yeah, this is this amazing piece that came, and it actually brought on this kind of deep depression in a way. But that where I said, like, inside of that deep depression, I actually found, that lead, to turn into gold. And it was really like this feeling. It's Send the Rain, and then in parentheses, To Everyone by Noah Gunderson. And it's had me feeling like, wow, those times when I'd like to just disappear so I no longer have to feel everyone's pain and just fill their cups to remembering who and what they are as overflowing love. And then it's just send the love to everyone. Maybe we all can just become the rain, and fill everybody's cups until they're overflowing again. And we're all now remembering, returning to this garden of each other's grace.
Beautiful. Sending the rain to you, my friend, and the love as well. And all of you listeners, lovely listeners out there. This is Send the Rain to Everyone by Noah Gunderson. Until next time, journey well. I love you all so, so much. Also, if you're craving more consciousness elevating content, be sure to check out Gaia, which is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web, where you can stream an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. As you all hear me constantly say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to journey deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out.
Death is coming, carried on his crooked wings. I can't do anything. Death is coming, carried on his crooked wings. I can't do anything. Hold on to what you've got. Put a lock on the door. doubling nine. Love is coming for to carry me. I don't know anything. Love is coming for to carry me. I don't know anything. Send the